Welcome back to The Lower Shelf. I'm Autumn, and I'm so glad you're joining us today. This week, Dr. John Shultz and Jacob Hanson sit down with Bob Bumgarner, lead missional strategist at First Coast Churches. In this episode, Bob shares why their tagline, "Don't Pastor Alone," is much more than a slogan. It's a commitment that guides how they support pastors and churches throughout the region. Let's dive in.
Hello, my name is John Shultz, and I serve as a pastor at First Baptist Church here in McClenny, Florida. And I want to welcome you to another episode of The Lower Shelf, where complex problems meet common sense answers. Co-hosting with me is Jacob Hanson. Jacob's our next-gen pastor at FBC Mac. And man, today I'm excited. We have a special guest, Bob Bumgarner, who is the Associational Missional Strategist of Jacksonville, Florida. I've known Bob for several years and feel that Jacksonville is very blessed to have you as the AMS. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your beginnings in ministry.
Yeah, thank you, John. I'm very honored to be here. I had the privilege of growing up in a Christian home. Dad was in the Air Force, so we lived all over the country. But I came to faith in Loring Air Force Base in Caribou, Maine. We would call it a replant church now. We met in a Knights of Columbus Hall.
Wow.
And third grade met in the basement, and it was actually a third grade Sunday school teacher who led me to faith in Christ.
Wow, that's cool. So talk to me a little bit about your ministry areas where you've served.
So I left seminary and went to Middletown, Ohio, where I was a senior pastor at Amanda Baptist Chapel just outside of Cincinnati, and actually led a group of steel mill and paper mill workers through Experiencing God. Experiencing God had just come out, and I thought it was for them, but it was actually, turns out, for me. God redirected my calling during that, and that's when I really discovered that second chair leadership was what God had designed me to do. So I was actually on my way back to seminary when somebody here in Florida called me and asked me what I was doing, and I told him that I was kind of having a redirection in my calling. And he said, "I can't confer the degree, but we're looking for that position, so come and be an executive pastor." So I did, and that's what, then I served with Dr. Sullivan at the Florida Baptist Convention for a long time and helped plant Chetts Creek Church while I was doing that, and ended up being their executive pastor before I came here.
Yeah, we've known each other for a long time. Let me just do a side off here, and that is I've done Experiencing God a few times. My wife has forbidden me to ever go through Experiencing God again, because every time I go through Experiencing God, we'd redirect.
Yes.
We go like, okay, I guess we're going to go somewhere else. And she said, you can't go through that anymore. Tell us a little bit about, share with us what kinds of training, coaching, engagement that First Coast Churches can provide for churches in the area, even out on the western edges like us in this area.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. And I want to say we love the churches out west.
Yeah.
We actually have four kind of primary areas. We have the west side of town, we have the beaches, we have urban, and we have suburban. And what we find is the needs are different in each one of those areas. Yeah. So one of the things that we do at First Coast Churches is we try to come alongside churches and listen to what's going on. What are the pain points? What are the opportunities? And then we design our programming, our collectives, our cohorts, our coaching, and those kind of things out of those kinds of conversations. So sometimes that means we talk to leaders about very specific problems that really aren't transferable. But it gives us an understanding of the context of where pastors are, because the solution for an urban church may not be the right solution for a county seat church. So we host gatherings of pastors every 2 or 3 months. It's kind of the collectives are kind of our big family reunions, is what people tell me they feel like. And we do those topics that apply and appeal, like artificial intelligence or how to the anxious generation, those kind of things, those big things but then we do in the middle between those, we do really what we call intensives, where it's more based on maybe it's only 15 or 20 people that need this, but we do deep dives into specific subjects.
That's cool.
Yeah, I know our church and our staff has greatly benefited from First Coast Church's events and trainings, and they certainly do feel like a big family reunion. We get together, get to see guys went to school with or served in ministry with, and they're a lot of fun. But a number of our folks, they may not know exactly how First Coast Churches is related to the Florida Baptist Convention, and then how the Florida Baptist Convention is even related to the Southern Baptist Convention. Yeah. I mean, of course, Southern Baptist Convention's coming to Orlando this summer, and so we're excited coming up next week. And so can you just talk a little bit about that relationship between First Coast, versus the Florida Baptist Convention, Southern Baptist Convention?
Sure. This is where Southern Baptists have a unique and what I think is a great ecosystem of church resourcing. So we're not technically a denomination.
Right.
So a denomination, the denomination's at the top and the church is at the bottom, and authority flows down. The way we look at it, it's an org chart, but the church is at the very top. And then the Southern Baptist Convention is an independent, autonomous entity that serves the churches that nationally through disaster relief, theological education, International Mission Board, church planting, all those kind of things. Then the state convention is also separate from the national agency, but they directly relate to churches in a state. So there's 26 or 2,700 churches in the state of Florida that the Florida Baptist Convention relates directly to. And then there's the local association. There are 40 or 41 associations within the state of Florida. All of them are autonomous from each other, and they're not obligated to the Southern Baptist Convention or the Florida Baptist Convention. In First Coast churches, we used to be called the Jacksonville Baptist Association. The reason we're not called that anymore is because our footprint of what we actually do is much bigger than Duval County. It's much bigger than Jacksonville.
Yeah, bigger in Jacksonville.
Yeah. So, and our pastors wanted that kind of identity. So we're autonomous, but we serve right now around 230 churches, and our vision statement thread is called "Don't Pastor Alone," because we really believe that isolation and doing things, recreating the wheel every time you do something is just not helpful for pastors. And so our "Don't Pastor Alone" really means this: if you're going to plant a church, don't plant it alone. Let's plant together. If you're going to strengthen your church, let's not do that. And so what we find is that that "Don't Pastor Alone" theme is really catching on and resonating with our pastors.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. You know, I know that Jacob already mentioned it. Southern Baptist Convention going to be in Orlando next week, and I think this could be. I was trying to think back. This could be either my first time in a long time or my first time I've ever going to the SBC. So I'm kind of excited about being able to go and stuff like that. Looking at it from our vantage point, or even from your vantage point, what do you think is one of the larger issues that the SBC is dealing with, and maybe even churches in our region? How is that going to impact them? Or, I mean, I know that you may have some ideas on that.
Yeah, I think the speed of change, the thousands of voices in culture, all of those kind of things are really challenging. Issues like what is gender, what are the roles of men and women, and those kind of things. But what's interesting is I really think it's the overload of information that's creating anxiety and polarization and constant distractions. Churches are hearing so many competing voices. I think about what we would call the church growth era of the church, the 80s and 90s, before the internet. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of stuff, but there were everybody didn't have their own printing press.
Oh yeah,
and so there was a
or their own audience.
Their own audience. Yeah, it was more of a collective audience. So I think churches need to seriously take stock of how are we discipling people? How are we helping them take culture in one hand and the Bible in the other hand, and figure out how to live biblically when culture is so divisive.
Yeah.
The good news is we all believe the gospel still works. So the gospel is still changing lives. The church still matters. But I think we've got to be more intentional about helping people identify and take next steps spiritually.
Me too. Yeah. I do too. I think, and I'll just pull into that just for a second. I think you hit on a couple of things that Jacob and I really been trying to drill into in this whole area of the digital influence in the lives of everybody. And sometimes we talk about Gen A or Z or whatever. It's everybody. Yeah. You go out to watch, or you go out to dinner and a family of four and everybody's on their device.
Yes.
There's no conversation happening. And you drill that back and say, okay, so how do we break into there when people are saying, that Anxious Generation book is fabulous. Not just the Anxious Generation Goes to Church, but the Anxious Generation. Been slow walking through that. Right. And the data from there says that Gen A and Z are dying for for face-on-face relationships. They're dying for relationships. They want to build a relationship, and it's one of those things we talked about it last time, is that there's a culture that's growing up that is coming up from middle school, high school on. They don't even know how to talk to people. They don't know how to navigate their own school stuff. We were talking about that last time.
Yeah, talking about too just the impact on conflict resolution, the ability to engage with people who maybe don't agree with you. We talked about a little bit about cancel culture, but yeah,
It's all around.
But I think, Bob, you were talking about this. I think the church, man, we have such a unique opportunity, right? Because we offer genuine community based on the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I do think that's if we can see it. So in other words, at a time when AI is impersonal, when all this technology, I mean, the hunger for real face-to-face interaction.
Oh, I see it.
It doesn't mean we have skill. It means we have hunger for it. But can we step into the space? Can we step into the void as churches? And not feel like we're behind, but realize, oh my gosh, that is who we are. That's the gift.
I will tell you, I'm with you, that whole life on life thing and broader, but certainly that. I've just seen a lot of neat things happen in people's lives, just that face-on-face kind of stuff. And just one way. That is just one way of being able to do it. Jacob, why don't you share some stuff with us?
Sure, yeah. I mean, you just talked about helping people. We as a church help people, come alongside them, disciple them, help them take next steps. And one of the ways we see that, like in our student ministry, so I serve here as Next Gen, so oversee kindergarten through 12th grade, but primarily work with middle school and high school. And man, we have so much fun. Yeah. And man, we've just got a great leadership team that loves students, loves coming alongside them, loves encouraging them. But we also know that there are some people sometimes who they're ready to take a next step. Right. They're ready to maybe give their lives away to full-time ministry, and they're sensing a call to that. Right. What are some kind of best practices you've seen for helping develop high-capacity volunteer leaders, bringing them into maybe like a residential program or like an internship program through your church, and then being able to deploy them and send them into a full-time ministry capacity? And
you're talking not just about students. You're talking
that's broad. That's one of the things I really want to talk with Stuart about. Wrote the internship policy there at Fort Caroline, but they've moved it to a residence. I just want to talk with them because they're really practicing this stuff out. Yeah.
I think the first of all, I think that pastors have to have eyes to see people that God is working with. Mm-hmm. You have to have kingdom eyes. So in other words, you got to be able to do what I would call a flash assessment. You know, what are you seeing? What's the kingdom evidence? What's the movement evidence you're seeing? Like, are people deeply interested in spiritual things? Are they making themselves available? And we don't need to say no for them. We need to assume that God has a next step for them. And so we have to move from program thinking to next step thinking. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the next step is a program, but I promise you we'll miss it if we think program and not steps.
Sure.
Within that, I think as a church, you have to celebrate anyone who takes a step. You know, so for some churches, that's testimony. For some, that's a video. For sometimes it's on a blog. Or it's just meeting. I mean, it's just going and telling somebody, man, I see what God's doing in your life. I call them the I see in you conversations. Mm-hmm. You know, who is it that you see something happening and have told them, let me tell you what I see in you. I was talking to a group of men this morning. There's 5 people, if you take them out of my life. And they didn't do it on purpose. Mm-hmm. They just not randomly, but Holy Spirit led, told me what they see in me. And we're so neck deep in what we're doing, we don't see what God is doing. So it's such a gift for somebody to be able to say, did you know that when you teach the Bible, people listen? Do you know that you have an unusual way of relating to senior adults? Or did you know that kids seem to like hanging out with you? I mean, those are the kind of things that I think we can help with development.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you've been in this role now for several years. We were just talking about it. 6 years?
6 years.
Yeah, 6 years. What surprised you most about the role, and what has encouraged you about this role?
I think what surprised me most in the beginning, and it's why we have Don't Pastor Alone, is how isolated our pastors were. Nobody was mad at anybody else, but they were so isolated. They felt alone. And what's funny is we redid our vision statement before Barna came out with his original report, and so we really felt affirmed that God had spoken to us when it came out, and it was affirmed. And here's what I've seen in this year is that the willingness of big, small, medium-sized church pastors red, yellow, black, and white, and then those 4 different areas. The ability to cross-pollinate, the ability to talk, the willingness to talk, the willingness to give up on these collectives almost 4 hours on those days. I mean, to come and, used to, when I got here, there were 30 or so people coming to them. We're kind of averaging 150 now, so it's a good thing. God and our team does a good job. I feel like we've earned the trust of folks. I guess what I am seeing is a real hunger in pastors to truly be able to disciple people in ways that weren't really happening when I grew up. Moving beyond programming to one-on-one, turning mission trips into discipleship experiences. I do think one of the things that we've kind of lost the art of is how do you, during not every sermon, but at sometimes in a call of response to ministry, like is God calling you to vocational ministry, and then actually making it possible, maybe putting some finances behind that for somebody who was going to take some seminary classes and those kind of things.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think the more that we lean into that, I think the better that it is for us to be able to lean into the possibility that God is calling someone. And I think there can be within some people the fear of, well, we don't want to lose them, and that's a protectionist viewpoint of saying that, well, we can't give them up. Well, you're not giving anybody up because they aren't yours to begin with.
Yeah. Again, this group I was talking to this morning, anytime you're talking about multiplication, you're actually talking about loss.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because it's multiplication for God to send somebody somewhere. It's going to probably cost you, and that's really where the culture comes in. That's why it can't be just you're working with churches need to create the culture where it's normal. We need to normalize this is what God does, and that's how you saturate a city like McClenny or an area like Baker County with the gospel. Is God is not only is He raising people up to serve the church, but to serve at City Hall, to serve as we talked about the different kinds of people that go to this church. What does it look like for us to help them take a step to be a missionary where they are?
Yeah, and I think that's it. Yeah, to see the missional kind of thing wherever, missiology, wherever they are kind of thing. So, I just really enjoy the ability for us to be together. Did you really answer what encouraged you in this role?
I don't know, maybe not. So here's what encourages me is to see pastors doing life together.
Yeah.
To see pastors being willing to serve one another, to do hard things together, to think about things that they haven't done before. And on a personal level, for me to be invited into some really painful spots in pastors' lives, to be able to hear and support them in what they're doing.
That's cool. Jacob, why don't you hit us in the next area? You got it.
Okay. All right.
The line.
Well, yes, man, Bob, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a great talk, and I think our people are going to be encouraged to understand a little bit more about First Coast churches and how you serve our church here in McClenny, but how you serve a wider footprint in Jacksonville and even beyond.
Yes.
And so, man, we're just extremely thankful for you being here today. And brother, I don't know if you hear it enough, but man, thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you
for the work that you're doing to encourage us.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Yes.
Well, it is. It's a cool thing to know that. And we've talked about this before, that the collectives are really, the quality of them has improved dramatically. As well, that when you go there, it's not going to be, I wonder what we're having for lunch. You know what I mean?
Man.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that. You're like, oh, man, is it lunchtime?
Yeah.
Because it really is a good meal before the meal.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Thank you.
Yeah, it really is. So I thank you for joining us today. And man, I hope that those of you that are listening would reach out to First Coast churches if you need help, or if you're a church planter or pastor or whatever. I know this, if you're in the Jacksonville area, and even if you're not, if you need some advice or you need some help or whatever, you can reach out to First Coast churches, and they will certainly reach back at you. And, I'm excited about every one that we do, every of our episodes. And this was one particular that I was looking forward to.
Thank you.
Value Bob's guidance and his friendship. And we try and pray for each other every week.
Amen.
We sure do. So hope you'll join us again for another episode of The Lower Shelf.
We hope today's episode has encouraged you in your walk with Christ. The Lower Shelf is a ministry of First Baptist Church of McClenny. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To learn more about First Baptist Church of McClenny, visit fbcmac.com, and you can also follow our ministry on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for spending time with us on The Lower Shelf.